Query from Ranchi, Jharkhand, number 52. Consent legal treatment was discussed with patient, estimate given in writing, consent was verbally taken, patient was a referral from a family friend, treatment of multiple teeth were done over a span of 6 months, patient came in the 7th month stating food lodgement. He is diabetic and toothpick user. All precautions were explained to him previously, hence out of good faith, I asked him to take a second opinion. He sent a legal notice after 2 months demanding full refund, stating that the treatment done was substandard, but no written proof. The family friend and a lawyer friend were all involved in this. I paid up since my family didn't want to get involved in the legal hassles. How could I have handled the situation better? Now, the question is, we underestimate a few things when it comes to consent. Consent is firstly toning down of the expectations, mentioning of the wrong habits, for example, toothpick user, understanding the medical history and allowing it to make a compromised, you can say, situation afterwards, or compromised results if you expect afterwards. All these three things, expectations, medical history, and of course, bad habits, they all have to be in sync and combined before you go ahead and start the treatment. If the patient and you are on the same page, understanding, say a yes. As I said in the morning also, and many times before, we are in a dominant position to say a no before the start. If we don't say a no, that means we have agreed and adjusted to the patient's needs and demands, whatever the patient has in her mind. The problem is we sometimes do the reverse. We sometimes take the patient to the moon, telling that we'll make them, you can say, Amir Khan and Salman Khan or Madhuri Dixit or Aishwarya Rai. We promise them certain out of the world things. Now, I'm not saying you did anything wrong. The primary thing is, if your consent form had been properly customized, if it contained the payment protocol and the terms and conditions, that nothing is refundable. If they knew the cost before in that regard, nobody would do that. I mean, sending of the legal notice and everything. Number 2, सबसे बड़ा क्लेश जो डालते हैं वो friends, relatives, known people ही डालते हैं. That is for you to understand. और अगर हम लोग सब कुछ, we are doing everything perfectly all right, we skip these things in those guys only. We skip these things in those guys only, friends, relatives, doctors, or whatever it is. Do you as a doctor, when you go to any hospital, God forbid, for any of surgical work or any kind of work where the consent is required, do they give you any leverage or freedom that aap doctor ho, aap consent form mat sign karo? You don't get it. You also have to sign it like a normal patient. So why do you make the exception? In this case, even it is not a doctor. It is just a referral from a doctor. Consent verbally taken. So if you have taken the written consent with the payment protocol and the terms and conditions, it is there. Second thing, the backbiting. खुद ही आपने उसको भेजा, having a good faith that the world is full of nice people. It's not. I don't say even it is Kali Yuga, it is Kali Yuga 2.0. We have so many people bitching around our back. But then that is the thing we have to live with. If people are bitching behind our back, we are sending them, they are not going to say nice things. The third thing, the legal notice coming from a lawyer is a very, very minuscule step. Sometimes going to court, there are two ways. या तो किसी का वाकई में डैमेज हुआ है, वो जाएगा थाने. The inspector will call you, record the statements of both the sides, decide as per the investigation. If any damage has not been, you can say, tangibly done, patient को लगता है बहुत डैमेज हो गया, डॉक्टर को लगता है कुछ भी नहीं हुआ, नॉर्मल है. if a compromise is made under the table, no FIR is registered. Even if a damage has been made and FIR has been registered, maybe कोई influence पड़ गया because of any reason, the FIR के बाद investigation is continued and the challan is presented in the court. The second way is directly go to a lawyer. Lawyer sends you a notice. You don't reply back or you do whatever. Lawyer तो लिख के भेज देते ना बहुत कुछ. Complete refund plus 10 lakhs mental damage. इतना कौन सा दिमाग खर्च कर लिया कि तुम्हारा मेंटल डैमेज 10 लाख का हो गया? They are idiots. I'm frankly saying those lawyers are idiots. They are pre-famed those things and they send it. The bigger the amount, the bigger the opponent gets fearful. And as your family responded, any respectable family would do so. So I don't blame your family. कौन कोर्ट कचहरी के चक्कर में पड़े? That is the commonest line we have heard in the Bollywood movies and otherwise common Indian households. That is the way it is. The thing is, if you reply back to notice, then a further counter notice, when the lawyer also understands, because जिसका case है ना, वो तो बढ़ा चढ़ा के ही बताएगा. And in the court, the onus lies on the complainant to prove. और आपके against क्या allegation था? Substandard work. By refunding, you have agreed to the fact that you did a substandard work. By refunding. Second thing, अगर वो substandard था या नहीं था, some colleague must give it in written that this work is substandard. Then only it gets some material evidence. Then the lawyer also understands this thing that there is something बोलते ना केस में जान है, तो वो केस में जान दिखती, वो नहीं दिखी, that also means so your family reacting to it is fine, your relatives doing this to you is fine, your lawyer friend sending you a notice is fine, and we think कि friend है यार, उससे consent कैसे ले लें हम return में? This is the big mistake that we do. So I don't say that you did wrong, but if you were confident of your treatment, you should have stood by it. That is the only thing I can say. Food lodgement does not mean that you have done a substandard treatment. There may be multiple reasons of that. So reacting to it that you did good, you could have handled better, notice से मत डरा करो. Notice तो let's suppose I am a lawyer, मेरे पास कोई रोता आया, मैंने उससे फीस ली, फीस के बदले में मैंने उसको नोटिस ड्राफ्ट करके दे दिया. इसमें पुलिस का, कोर्ट का, किसी का अभी तक कोई लेना देना नहीं है. हाँ, if I don't respond to the notice, they have the full right to go to court. तब भी material evidence on record is required. You said nothing written proof. वो कहाँ से होएगा? पहले तो दुखड़ा ही होता है ना. आधे से ज्यादा हिंदुस्तान तो लीगल नोटिस से डर जाता है, जो लॉयर के ऑफिस से आता है. लॉयर का नाम, लॉयर का पैनल, लॉयर का you can say whole list देख के लोग डर जाते हैं. Of course, if it comes from a firm, they have even bigger and grocery words. I've shared a couple of cases where I've shared legal notices also, probably not with in the YouTube. They're not there on YouTube. I shared them with my, you can say, alumni batch of MLE, consent alumni batch, where I've shared these things. But the kind of groggy statements they make are sometimes unfathomable. So probably आगे से legal notice से मत डरिए. Number one. Number two, stand by your treatment if you really believe that you have done good work. Then don't. If these two things are, you can say, firm on this, then don't have those third thing written में तो कुछ है नहीं, proof तो है नहीं. Proof कैसे करोगे? The onus is still on the complainant to prove that. Remember that. I hope you get the answer. Of course, part 2 is there. So getting a good orthoist consultant is difficult. I have had consultants leave midway through ortho treatments once they have received their share. How to handle this situation? Again, documentation is required whenever you are dealing with consultants. Contract bol do, terms and conditions bol do, whatever you can mention it like this. You charging full from the patient, 50% from the patient, You pay in an installment system to the consultant so that the accountability is there. Number one criteria where you are not sure. Number two, this needs to make sure that line I always say, choose your consultants wisely based on their credibility, not based on your friendship with them. So if you are not choosing your consultants wisely, you are actually falling a prey to something substandard, who may be a good friend, but may not be a good professional colleague. और यूजली जो छोड़ के जाते हैं यूजली फिर वही दोस्ती होती है. सेकेंड एंगल में भी वही आ गया. सुबह भी मैंने मेंशन किया था, इफ सम ऑफ यू हैव अटेंडेड, हिसाब अपनी जगह, रिलेशनशिप अपनी जगह. Keep personal and professional life separate. So it is up to you how you want to react to the situation. Payment wise, you want to react. Documentation wise, you want to react. Skill wise, you want to react. Your wish. There are multiple ways.